Height is very practical when it comes to basketball.
Being tall can help you get a ball through the hoop and prevent opponents from scoring.
And if there is one very, very tall player who knows how to do this well, it's Victor Wembanyama.
Voilà, il se déplie comme ça, mais qu'est-ce que vous voulez faire?
Oh là là, mais qu'est-ce que c'est incroyable!
Il a un talent qu'on n'a jamais vu dans le basket.
I've never seen this before, have I?
He's more like an alien. Ah! Il est rejeté par Victor Wembanyama! Le corps de Wembanyama!
Victor Wembanyama is 7'2". That's 17 centimeters taller than a standard door and 22 centimeters taller than the average NBA player. In the NBA, he'd belong to the so-called 7-footers. They're players who can do this and this with more ease.
But while it might seem unlikely, these tall players are not necessarily the most sought after.
De manière générale au basket, être immense n'apporte pas que des avantages.
Être grand, c'est être aussi plus fragile, plus lent et moins coordonné. Et moins fort, on va dire.
To understand why, we're going to use two players as examples, along with a shovel, a door, a pen, and a racing car. First, the shovel. If you hold the handle here, it's clear that it's not the same as holding it here. The bigger the space is, the harder it is to lift.
And with the body, it's nearly the same.
Take these two players. One is 5'9", the other is 7'2", so about 20% taller. For our example, we're going to focus on their forearms, which are the same proportion. Like the shovel, the longer an arm is, the harder it is to lift. To calculate this, we use the formula m times d squared. M is the mass of each forearm. To keep it simple, for both players they each weigh 2 kilograms. Times by d, the distance between the elbow and the center of gravity of the arm. There's about a 20% difference between the two proportions. Next, the distance is squared. The result shows that a 20% increase in distance means 40% more effort needs to be put in. The difference would be even greater if the longer arm weighed more, which is quite likely. This applies to the whole body, since the skeleton is quite similar for each limb. Another example. Using the pen, it's much easier to be precise when it's held here rather than here. And it's the same for the forearms. A tiny contraction of the muscle causes the same movement in the elbow, but not for the hand. A longer arm means wider movement. It's more difficult to be precise. And the third example, the door. The further away the force is from the axis of rotation, the more effect it has. Applying this to players, the hinges are the ankles. The same blow to the shoulder will be more destabilizing for a taller player because it's further from the point of rotation. And more broadly, this is also the case with one's own center of gravity. Higher up, it's more difficult to maintain balance. And our final example, the race car. Put behind the wheel of a Formula 1 car, you would probably need to do quite a few laps of the circuit to feel confident driving. That's a bit like what happens to the brain during a sudden growth spurt. The limbs suddenly get much bigger, and the brain has trouble adjusting. It thought it was going to put its hands here, but they're actually here. It's harder to be precise when you grow taller fast.
And this can be very frustrating, because basketball isn't about handling doors or shovels. It's about doing a lot of different, very precise movements, very, very quickly.
Il y a beaucoup de situations motrices qui sont vraiment très difficiles dans le basket. Parce que c'est un sport de déplacement, que le ballon bouge vite et qu'il faut combler les espaces.
Take Manuel Lacroix. He's a physical trainer for the French team. He tests his players' agility by setting up a square with lights that randomly light up, and players turn them off with their hands. This first player is 6'2".
Pour changer de direction, il va descendre son bassin, fléchir les hanches pour avoir plus de force de pousser au sol. Il est déjà orienté avec son genou dans le sens où il veut aller. Sur chaque redémarrage, il a une excellente coordination bras-jambes.
Next up is a player who's 6'8".
Il n'y a pas de flexion sur ses jambes parce que c'est difficile de descendre son centre de gravité. Une forte inclinaison du tronc vers l'avant du coup. Une action du dos très forte pour repartir. Il n'y a pas de coordination bras-jambes. Les jambes bougent mais les bras sont quasiment inactifs.
In the US, a research lab tried to quantify this. By placing sensors on players, they measured their change of direction speed. They found that the shorter players tend to change direction approximately 8% faster than taller players.
When you're talking about really quick, really fast dynamic changes of direction, that can certainly make a difference.
But there is also another problem. There is the risk that a very tall player could get injured, and that's before they even get to the court.
On l'oublie un petit peu, mais c'est des vraies problématiques dans la vie courante. On va avoir un enroulement de la colonne vertébrale, douleur de dos, de genoux, de hanches.
And once on the court, basketball subjects the body to what trainers call great stress.
On a des gabarits qui peuvent atteindre les 120, 125 kg, qui vont sauter, qui vont répéter les décélérations très très fortes, les changements de direction, qui vont mettre des contraintes très importantes de par leur poids de corps sur les articulations.
If your movement isn't efficient, you can get exposed pretty quickly, probably more in basketball than in any other sport.
This is what happened to Chinese player Yao Ming, who was 7'5". Propelled into the NBA in 2002, he was noticed for his talent and for his repeated injuries, which forced him to stop his career. Many 7-footers have had to make limited career choices because of problems like Yao Ming's.
Historiquement, on a souvent cantonné les 7-footers à des postes de pivot aux alentours du panier où leur taille est un avantage pour marquer et prendre des rebonds. Le problème, c'est que ça les a bridés, ça les a empêchés de développer des capacités autres comme l'agilité.
Over the past decade, basketball has become an even faster sport, requiring more agility. Because of this, NBA teams have seen very tall players completely discarded. And yet, according to Manuel, this is gradually changing.
Il y a une vraie évolution. Avant, les grands ne couraient pas, ils n'étaient pas mobiles, ils n'avaient pas de coordination. Aujourd'hui, c'est impressionnant ce qu'ils font.
It's hard to say why this is. It could be because of better physical preparation, like muscle building.
J'ai pas la réponse, je pense qu'on est quand même beaucoup plus structuré sur l'entraînement aujourd'hui des jeunes qu'on l'était à l'époque.
It was after hours and hours of work.
Victor Wembanyama's performance has even reached a new level.
Il a une mobilité, une dextérité, une coordination exceptionnelle.
And it could be because he grew quite steadily.
My body has had time to adjust to himself. I think that's the thing.
But there's still one problem, the risk of injury.
On a toujours les mêmes problématiques quand même de fragilité.
En NBA, Victor Wembanyama va se retrouver opposé à des joueurs plus lourds que lui, et pour s'y frotter, il a déjà commencé à prendre du muscle. Le souci, c'est que prendre autant de poids et modifier autant son physique accroît encore le risque de blessure.
S'il reste en bonne santé, il sera un des meilleurs joueurs de l'histoire.